Hey, how's it going, everyone? Bass here. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down and going over the PFF grades for the entire regular season for the defense. If you didn't see earlier in the week, I did the same exact thing, but for the offense. So same as that video, I'm basically going to be going over the starters on defense and where they ranked around the league. Also, if you saw my injury update video previously in the week, I am giving away a signed Allen Lazard mini helmet through Pristine Auction. So if you haven't seen that, click the link right above and go do that and enter that giveaway. All right, so to get things started, we're going to start down in the trenches, and we'll bring up the screen here. And first, we have defensive line, and we have Kenny Clark. Now, these grades include nose tackles, 3-4 defensive ends. So you'll have guys like Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, all in the same rankings as Kenny Clark. So take that with a grain of salt when you hear their rankings around the league in terms of numbers. But Kenny Clark ended with a 74.9 overall grade, which was 15th best for his defensive line. And like I said, that's in the same category as Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt. Kenny Clark had 64 total pressures and 3 sacks, 32 tackles, and 28 stops. And a really solid year for Kenny Clark. I thought Kenny Clark played really well this year. PFF tends to not grade Kenny Clark that high. I mean, I don't know exactly why, but I think it might be based on the fact that maybe he doesn't finish tackles, because Kenny Clark a lot of the times will blow up the center or blow up the guard, and then that's it. The run still goes away from him, and that just happens. I think that might be why, but still him disrupting the play like that just means so much. For the second highest graded defensive lineman for the Packers this year, we do have Dean Lowry, a 66.7 overall grade, which was 36th best in the NFL. Dean Lowry had 42 pressures, 6 sacks, 22 tackles, and 14 stops. And I always thought he was a big part of this defensive line, even though a lot of people always say, Dean Lowry's bad, he shouldn't be on this football team. In my opinion, he had a very solid year. Now, Dean Lowry could be a cap casualty come next year. We know how the Packers cap situation is, which is just not good. And next year, he has an $8 million cap hit, so he definitely could become a cap casualty. But with the Packers just sadly cutting Kingsley Keke for who knows why, they might have to keep Dean Lowry, if I could speak English today, around. But I also think they will draft someone in the first round. Last but not least, we have a frequent flyer for this series. We have Tyler Lancaster, and I know you guys were going to ask about him because, like I just said, he's on this series pretty much every week, or he was at least on the wrong side for the losers, on the bad grades for the defense. So Tyler Lancaster had a 55.8 overall grade, which is the 86th best defensive lineman. He only had 4 pressures, 0 sacks, 22 tackles, and 17 stops. So just really a depth guy on the Packers defensive line. I would still like to see TJ Slayton get more snaps, and I believe we will now that Keke's out. Abdullah Anderson, practice squad defensive lineman, the Packers have been elevating and protecting. He will also get more snaps for this upcoming game. Now moving on to the edge defenders, the edge players, and Rashawn Gary being at the top here. He finished with an 89.3 overall grade, which is the 5th best edge player in the entire NFL, an 88.9 pass rush grade, which was 6th best, and he had 81 pressures, which was the 2nd most pressures out of all edge players, to under Max Crosby. Max Crosby had like 100 plus, which is just ridiculous. Rashawn Gary had 10 sacks, 23 tackles, 25 stops, and 2 forced fumbles. I thought Rashawn Gary took a huge jump in his 3rd year this year, where the defense needed him the most when Zadarius Smith went out after week 1. So really loving what I saw from Rashawn Gary this year, and I think he'll be a premier edge rusher in the league for years to come. Second for edge rushers, we obviously have Preston Smith here. He finished with an 80.8 overall, which is 10th best edge rusher. So 2 top 10 PFF graded edge rushers here on defense. Also a 78.0 coverage grade, which is 8th best for edge guys. So shout out to cornerback Preston Smith. Preston Smith totaled 62 pressures, which was 13th best, 9 sacks, 24 tackles, 25 stops, and 2 forced fumbles. And Preston Smith really stepped up this year as well. I mean, last year wasn't the best of years. He really didn't have a great year last year, but this year I thought he played really well. And as I said, the Packers having 2 top 10 edge rushers has been huge for this defense. This Joe Barry defense where they only really send 4 guys into pressure. So if 2 of them are Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, a lot of times you are going to get after the quarterback. And getting Zadarius Smith back this week will just attribute more to that. Now moving on to the inside linebackers of the defense, and obviously at the very top here, we have Devondre Campbell. The Packers signed him this offseason, and what a signing it was. Devondre Campbell ended with a 84.3 overall grade, which was 2nd best, just under Micah Parsons. Shout out Micah Parsons. What a year. What a year. Definitely defensive rookie of the year. Devondre Campbell had a 78.1 run defense grade, which was 2nd, a 90.4 tackle grade, which was 1st, an 83.1 coverage grade, which was 2nd. So long story short, he was good. I mean, he was probably the best all-around linebacker. Micah Parsons was very good, but Micah Parsons they kind of use him in the pass rush game. Devondre Campbell's more of that, typical inside linebacker. And he had 111 total tackles, 53 stops, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and he only allowed 6.8 yards per reception, which was second best for all inside linebackers. Devondre Campbell obviously voted to the first team All-Pro. I am so glad the Packers signed him this offseason. I don't think any of us could say we saw this coming. I mean, he hasn't really had a great season in his entire career in the NFL, so really a shocker for him to come in here, take that leadership role, and become an All-Pro inside linebacker. When's the last time we were able to say that? So I hope the Packers can somehow, some way extend him. As for the Packers' second inside linebacker, we have Chris Barnes here, who finished with a 51.3 overall grade, which was 54th best for all inside linebackers, so not really ideal there. Barnes did have 64 total tackles and 32 stops, but the thing with Chris Barnes, and I say this week in and week out, he's just very inconsistent. I expected more of a better year after a surprising rookie year and being an undrafted free agent out of UCLA. I expected more from him this year. He didn't really make that sophomore jump. Maybe he will make that third-year jump like Rashawn Gary did. Who knows? Some games he looked elite. Some games he looked like a fourth-string linebacker, so he just needs to be more consistent. Now moving on to the cornerbacks, and at the top of the list, we have Rasul Douglas. Now, obviously, if Jair wasn't hurt, he'd be on here, but I'm not going to even talk about it because he was out for majority of the year. But man, what a story with Rasul Douglas. Finished with a 73.5 overall grade, which was the 14th best cornerback in the NFL, and that's only in 12 games. A 76.5 coverage grade, which was 9th best. He allowed 33 receptions on 64 targets for 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. Rasul Douglas also had 5 interceptions, of course, 2 of which went for touchdowns, 6 pass breakups, and the 330 yards he allowed was 6th lowest for cornerbacks with 600 plus snaps. Not much else to say that already hasn't been said about Rasul Douglas. Just what an amazing signing and find by Brian Gutekunst. The second cornerback we have here is Eric Stokes. He finished with a 66.3 overall grade, which is 30th best in cornerbacks, and he was actually the 3rd highest graded rookie cornerback here this year. He allowed 49 receptions on 96 targets for 567 yards, 1 interception, and 9 pass breakups. So would have liked to see him get a little more interceptions, but the pass breakups, they're good too. Very solid rookie year for Eric Stokes here. I didn't expect him to come in right off the draft being, even though he's a first rounder, usually the Packers' first round picks kind of sit for a little bit, but he had to come right in due to the Jair Alexander injury, and he will surely be the outside cornerback of the Packers' future, that's for sure. As for the Packers' third cornerback, which is a slot cornerback, that is Chandon Sullivan. He finished with a less than ideal 55.0 overall grade, which was 69th best, nice. He allowed 48 receptions on 69 targets, nice, for 603 yards, 3 interceptions, and 1 pass breakup, and just an okay year for Chandon Sullivan, kind of below average. It's the last year of his deal, so I don't really expect the Packers to bring him back, if I'm being honest. I don't think they're going to spend that money there. The Packers may use Jair in that spot in the playoffs, so that could even make him even more expendable, but we'll see what they do there. And last but not least, we do have the safeties here for Green Bay. Adrian Amos being the highest graded one for Green Bay, 75.9, which was 12th best for safeties, and this is free safety and strong safety combined all into one list. 77.2 run defense, which was 10th best, 86.3 tackle, which was 6th best, and 75.8 coverage, which is 13th best. Adrian Amos had 76 tackles, 14 stops. He allowed 34 receptions on 54 targets for 315 yards. He had 2 interceptions and 7 pass breakups. A really solid year for Adrian Amos, but he was a lot better last year, but still good this year. And last but not least, we have my main man, Darnell Savage. Shout out Newark, Delaware, but he did not have the best of years this year. Darnell Savage, only a 59.7 overall grade, which was 48th best for safeties, 51.3 run defense, which was 59th best, 58.2 tackle, which was 51st best, and 63.6 coverage, which was 38th best. He had 48 tackles and 9 stops, allowed 29 receptions on 44 targets for 395 yards. He also had 2 interceptions and 7 pass breakups. playoffs, but a down year for Darnell Savage after a very promising year last year. Last year, he finished with a 72.1 grade, and this year all the way down to a 59.7. So hopefully he turns it up for the playoffs and does better next year as well on top of that. We definitely need him to play good in these playoffs. And then finally, I want to go over the defensive team rankings overall via PFF. We have total defensive grade of a 76.3, which was third best in the NFL. We have a run defense grade of 53.4, which was 15th best. So this is definitely our lowest category here. The Packers haven't been a great run defense team this year. A tackling grade of 78.9, which was second best. They were first for a long time. The Eagles jumped them, but still, when's the last time you could say the Packers had a very, very good tackling team? Probably a very long time. We had a pass rush grade of 83.6, which was also second best. So when you can tackle well and you can rush the passer well, your defense is going to look good. And a coverage grade, finally, a coverage grade of 82.7, which was seventh best in the league. So that about does it for these grades. Overall, the defense, I thought, took a jump this year under Joe Barry. It's the first year under a new coordinator. I've liked what I saw from Joe Barry and definitely expect him to be back next year. Hopefully, this defense can return to that middle of the season form that they had in the playoffs here and go win a championship. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What grade did you expect the most? And you're like, okay, yeah, I see that. And what grade shocked you the most? Like I said, just leave that down in the comments below. But on that note, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.